All right, so let's talk about the word traditional since that came up in the last topic. What is your view or view in the manscape? What is the view of traditionalism in this new age concept? And that the world has pretty much subscribed to.
So, traditionally, a woman and the man, mostly the woman would be a virgin, right? And we're talking
The perfect world.
textbook traditionalism, okay? And, non-traditional, the woman and the man have had many partners, okay? Mm-hmm. Traditional relationships, there was courting. The purpose of courting was marriage. All right, no sex, no cohabitation before the marriage. Traditionally, there was one income, and it was the man. The man would have one income, and the woman traditionally would be a homemaker and a mother. Okay, traditionally, the man would be protecting and providing. And in this day and age, women don't really need protection so much. We have the police, we have the military, and so long as you don't put yourself in precarious positions or places, generally, if you leave the house with your man, he should be able to protect you, right? So if you leave your house without the man and there's trouble, the man's not going to be around to protect you, right? You go off on your own, you're putting yourself into a precarious place. Okay, but that's traditional. Traditionally, the woman would be home, she would cook, she would be, keep the house clean, keep it cooked. She might also be responsible for making sure that the home budget was, protected, making sure that the home was running efficiently. Okay. Not necessarily the man was not necessarily giving her open access to the bank account, but if they needed to get a better quote on homeowners insurance, the woman could do that during the day while the man was at work focusing on his job. Traditionally, the woman would provide sex to the man, and the woman, would be spending time nurturing and raising children. In non-traditional, which is what we have today, there's childcare. So those children are going to spend most of their time being raised by someone other than the mother and the father. That's very non-traditional. Traditionally, a woman was a man's helpmate. Now we have partnerships and, equal relationships and splitting chores, and, there's a division of labor now. And, a lot of these relationship conflicts come from this division of labor, this, attempt at having a successful non-traditional relationship. And most people are failing miserably because it's just not the way, it's not the ideal situation.
So is it manosphere? Is that the right word? I don't want to use the word manscape because obviously that has a different.
I was just talking to my father today, and, traditionally men would take their family to church every weekend, right? Traditionally, the man was responsible to God. Okay.
Sure.
And the woman was responsible to the man and God. And then the children would answer basically and be responsible to the man, the woman, the man, and God. A child could see God through his mother, through his father. That's how a child would get to know God, right? So, in an untraditional relationship, the woman is no longer underneath the man. The woman is now equal to the man. Mm-hmm. Okay. And unfortunately, in this immoral society, is they're not going to church. They're not living according to the principles of the Bible, right? They're not living they don't have a godly marriage. They're not living in submission to God. Neither
the women. You mean the women aren't? Or
the men? Yeah. A lot of the times the men are not leading the women in a godly relationship, in a godly marriage. They have fallen away.
So just in defense of the women, what do you think that the women were inclined to do or going to do in this situation? I'll let you answer that question first.
Yeah, I mean, just like, I was raised and going to church on Sunday was not optional. It was just that was it. That's what we did. We ate meals together. We went to church together, and that's, we had the nuclear family. And, my father was the head of the household. There was no debate, no question. He made the money. He decided how it was spent. And, if my mother wanted to do something, she didn't have, she didn't just decide that she wanted to do something and go do it. She needed to make sure that my father was going to be, was going to agree to that.
So is this, can you give me the word again? Is that the manosphere?
Yeah. So the man, within the manosphere, there's so many different types of men who have, we have men going their own way, right? And there's a lot of different men going their own way. It's a philosophy. It's a way of life. Okay. That you have pickup artists. You have men out there that are basically training other men how to convince women to get in bed with them, and they're part of the manosphere.
Now, you've mentioned that men are actually paying for this, paying other men to train them on how to date in this new age thinking in 2027. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, they're known as pickup artists, PUA, pickup artists. Okay. And then, some men don't like to be called pickup artists. They like to, they are basically training men on what they call game, right? Game is something that a man will have with a woman, how he reacts to a woman, how he treats a woman, how he leads her, how the relationship is going to flow. Men also are being trained how to have game at work and in their business, and those type of men, game to them is a way of life. Everything that those men do, they're 100% sovereign and in control, and they're calling the shots. And, those type of men are literally only interested in women who are going to function according to their program, and women that are going to be led, and a lot of women end up, they want to be led. They want a man to lead.
So the whole concept, and again, we're talking about this new dating philosophy, this whole concept of a woman who has her stuff together or who looks good on paper, where does that fit into this new dating scene? Because it sounds like, and I'm sure I'm not the only person, I'm going to speak for the women who I know are either going to watch or that I know or that I've read about, and even maybe a few of my own experiences. A lot of times people think my questions are about me, and they're really not. A lot of times you have women who say, well, what is that men are looking for? Here it is. You'll see a man say he wants a woman that has everything together, but then you'll see him date somebody who doesn't. Is it a matter of that woman being more appreciative seemingly, or not wanting what you said, the challenge of that person being equal?
Yeah, I mean, men want to be respected. They would like a woman to be cooperative. They want a woman to be feminine. They want a woman to be friendly. They want a woman who's going to contribute and do things that benefit the man, that support the man, right? That's what men are generally looking for in a woman, right? We're not interested in the woman's education, or we don't need the woman's money. We're not interested, that doesn't benefit the men generally at all. We're not looking for a woman that doesn't need a man, right? Men like for a woman to, like I said, cooperative, non-combative. Most women hate the word submissive, but when you boil it down, men prefer submissive women. We're not looking for women to push back.
So, and I have to defend the women watching for a second. There's a statement that I'm familiar with hearing, a statement that I also know. A woman can be submissive. It depends on that particular man. So if a woman isn't submissive, she really isn't trusting or believing that person, that male that we're talking about, either makes the right decisions or is someone that she wants to follow. So since we're talking male code, I'm going to give you a little bit of woman code. It's that she may be looking or desirous of him being able to lead, but she's not submissive because obviously at some point there has been some expression that he just wasn't up to par when it comes to leading her in the right direction.
So a very small percentage of men are able to properly be masculine and lead women. That is a very small group of men. That is the problem. So a lot of women, I like to use percentages because I'm a guy. So I think in terms of, I think in terms of numbers. Data. So, I would say 80% of women are looking for that type of man that checks all those boxes, and there may only be 2 or 3% of the men, and 80% of the women can't have 2 or 3% of the men, right? Those top 2 or 3% though, they can have 8 women. You know, if you do the math, 80% divided by 3, right? Those top men can manage 6, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2. They can manage many women at a time. And that's the thing. Women want that top guy, but that top guy has no reason to settle for just one. And when in fact that top man has worked his whole life to put himself in that position, and now he can have almost any woman that he wants. You know, he can have a 22-year-old woman, you know, fresh out of college.
So why does he have to have many women? Why can't he just have one?
Because generally a virulent, successful, masculine man, one woman cannot satisfy his sexual appetite. It's not possible. You know, a man who is really, I don't know what the best word is, but you know, a man could one woman she's just not enough. She's just not enough, and nor should she be. You know, nor should she be. That's the thing. You know, a man. So I'll use myself for example. One woman is not enough to really keep me satisfied. Certainly not forever, for a time period, for a season.
So I remember reading, I think Michael Basin's book, Never Satisfied. I think I was probably about 20, 21. I know for me, the dating scene, after reading that book is like kind of hard for me to think outside of what I read. So I can see stuff or relate to what I've read in that book. So basically you're saying that men are simply just insatiable. Are you saying also, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that a woman should change her perception? Obviously, not every man. I don't want some woman to say, well, my man is faithful. Are you saying that most men have the inability to be with one woman for the rest of their life?
Well, let's put it this way. You know, if a man is generally with, let's say, more than one woman, right? Mm-hmm. And now over time, perhaps one of those women is going to do enough, put in enough work, right? He's going to be able to lead her, basically teach her what he needs. You know, over time, she may become enough. Over time, he may discard the other women. So, you know, for me, I'm 45. When I'm 55, that's 10 years from now. Okay, so I'm certainly not going to jump in and decide to be exclusive and commit to one woman right away. I'm going to continue to have, you know, as many women as works for me. And, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. There may be one woman that I meet that is able to basically fulfill me, right? And that's the thing. I'm already fulfilled. So I don't need a woman to fill my cup is full. My cup is overflowing to the point where I have an overflowing cup. Okay. I have an abundance mindset when it comes to life. Right. So I don't know if that was the best way to answer your question, but I don't have an insatiable appetite. Like I said, I'm not running out. I don't need 5 women, nor do I want 5 women. Right.
How many women do you want? Or do men want? You just put yourself in and representing people of this manosphere.
I'm just trying to make women understand, look, if you want one of these top-notch guys, right, you got to understand something. This man has power and options and choices. And the older he gets, he's going up. His income's going up. Men can procreate until they're in their 80s, right? Now, over time, a woman, because of nature, doesn't, you know, her beauty is decreasing on the scale. It's just, that's the way God made us. You know, a woman's peak is literally teens, late teens and 20s. That's when women need to lock down a man, right? Women need to lock down a man during that age period, and then do everything that they can to ensure that man happy and satisfied and build, you know, when they say, let's build together, well, it's too late for a woman to build with me. I already built everything, right? I don't need a woman to build with. I already built it. It's already built, right? So I'm not looking for a partner because I don't need a partner. I'm not looking for someone to build with because I already built it. And I'm not willing to put what I built at risk, you know?
So you mentioned becoming enough, right? So somewhere early in this conversation, we had spoken about equality. So you believe in dates and reciprocity with finance versus sexual experiences should be equal. At the same time, when I'm hearing become enough, it sounds like the man is the king and he's dominant and the woman is subservient. So therefore, I don't hear equality in every sense of what we're talking about. It's like picking and choosing when there is a power dynamic that's obviously in the favor of the man versus when it's in favor of the woman.
Yeah, and I do believe that the power dynamic was and always should be in the man's. That is what it means to be a man. He is more powerful and dominant and masculine. Masculinity is more powerful and dominant than femininity.
So why shouldn't he pay for all the dinners then? Why does a woman have to be equal in those senses? It's almost like when it's convenient, there's a need for equality, but when it's not, I'm the man and I want to rule.
Well, we're talking about dating. So we're talking about getting to know a woman, right? So I'm not interested in paying to get to know a woman. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm not, that isn't, it's just a no. It's just a no, thank you. That's it. You know, first of all, you don't need to drink and eat in order to have sex. It's not required, right?
Then we're back to the same
We-
same thing, that it's all about just sex and conquering. So it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm
If
wrong.
men are being honest, it is about sex. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
if every man was honest, he would just say, yes, it's, you know, the reason why I'm talking to you, you know, if a man's talking to a woman, it's because he wants to have sex with her. That's it. It's very, very straight up simple. And if women were honest, right, they would admit that it's more than just sex for them. They want more. So, you know, my question is, okay, please clearly define what it is that you require of me. And, you know, let me decide if that's something that I either can or want to provide to you.
So what
Because
about
it's
the woman?
not free. It's not free. It's not free. It's only free if, you know, this is how I operate. I'm, like I said, I'm just honest. I'm just honest right up front. Hey, I'm not interested in marriage. I'm not interested in cohabitating. I'm interested in sex. We're going to have a great time, you know, but, you know, if I have to pay for it all, just tell me up front and, you know, let me know how much it's going to cost, because I need to decide how to spend my money. It's my money.
So it sounds like women in this new age of dating need to clearly define what it is that they're expecting, what it is that they want, what it is that they're willing to provide in the beginning, and with a hope that the male is either going to have this conversation with honesty or just walk away from the situation.
Yeah, it always boils down to just clear communication right up front. No, you know, don't mislead each other. If a woman jumps into bed with a man right away, in most cases, she's going to get ghosted, right? And yeah, the man's going to think, well, if she jumped into bed with me, she's been
everybody else
for a long time. At the same time, there's a lot of men out there that don't care. We don't, you know, we call it body count. We don't care what your body count is. You could have slept with 5 men or 50 men, or maybe 250 men. Some men don't care because, you know, we're not looking for a wife. We're not looking for exclusivity. Women just have to be very, very, that women are not mate selection will determine your future. Mate selection is the most important decision a man or a woman will make in their entire life. And it always will be. Mate selection is the most important choice you have to make as a man or a woman, whether you're 18, 28, 38, 48, or 58. That will determine your life. Mate selection is everything. And men and women are not being taught mate selection. They're not being taught by their parents. They're not being taught in school. They're being taught by media, and mostly social media. And social media is basically just telling everybody to have sex with everybody all the time. It is, you know, it's what I refer to as the dumpster fire.
Right.
So, you know, I try not to blame men or women. I try to blame the culture that we're living. You know, whether we come from different cultures, we're all now in the same, the culture is all inclusive, right? It doesn't matter what color you are, your background and how you were raised obviously affects who you are and how you think, but we're all living in this same culture that is highly sexualized. It's about and highly financial, right? Living in the United States of America in most cities costs a fortune. So in the manosphere, we have men that specialize in different things. We have somebody like Kevin Samuels, who focuses on talking to Black women specifically, right?
He gives me, I can barely even say that person's name without cringing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people follow him, but he's obviously representative of this new movement of dating that's pretty much, say infesting, but changing the mindset of men and how they're looking at women and the dating scene.
Well, Kevin Samuel's ultimate goal is to help people create functional, successful relationships, right? And he is hitting the hard truth. He is going hard on women, but the points that he makes cannot be discredited. The points and arguments he makes have not been proven false.
Are his beliefs pretty much representative of this new ideology of dating?
No, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So, if you look at the manosphere as a pie, Kevin Samuels might represent 10%. So he's 5 or 10% of the manosphere. He just focuses on his niche. Okay. Then you might have somebody like a Coach Greg Adams, right? He's known as CGA. He focuses on what's called the free agent lifestyle, right? Okay. And he's encouraged.
That's like a sports terminology to say, hey, guess what? I'm
exactly because
here as long as I want to be.
He's the coach, and his career was as a personal trainer, and then he taught basketball to women's college. He was so he learned a lot about women from being a women's, NCAA Division I or Division II basketball coach. And he was married and divorced, and he went through all that. And he's just training men on female nature and helping men protect themselves. Men are getting burned out there. Men are getting taken advantage of. And I'm not saying because women are intentionally taking advantage of them, right? But a woman has the support of the government, the law are in her favor. When you look at men, men are suffering because we're on our own. No one stands up for a man. We have to make all our money. Nobody helps us. We don't have access to any support from the government at all. We don't have several women ready to help us pay our bills. Whereas a woman, especially if she's attractive, she's got multiple men who, she might have one man pay her cell phone bill, one man paying her car note, one man taking her out to dinner. There's a lot of women out there. And so, especially the older generation of women are not yet fully aware of what is going. They don't know what they're up against. The competition is so fierce.
Are you speaking of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Are you speaking of the older women who are in the dating market or dating scene, or are you talking about older women?
The older women are at the greatest disadvantage. Okay. And, they don't want to play games. They just want to settle down. Right.
Right.
But the men that they want to settle down with, that's the problem. They're not willing to settle, and they're settling for no man. Instead of settling for a man, they're settling for they have 0 men. That's it. They're not getting. There are a lot of men. We always say, check your friend zone first of all. Check your friend zone.
Go ahead.
That guy that's been a plumber or an electrician that makes 65 or 75 grand a year. He very well could be a millionaire. He might actually own a business, but he's not that handsome. He may or not be not that fit, but he's financially fit, and he may not be exciting, right? He may not be, he has very little or no game. And, women basically ignore a lot of these quote unquote good men. They're ignored.
So another thing I'm hearing is the sense of applying people to some sort of category. What happened to personality and character and how they engage with other people? It seems like that's obsolete in this. It seems like it's all about financial standing. It seems like it's about either looks or money. That seems to be the common denominator of this manosphere.
So, we judge women based on their actions. We don't judge them based on what they say. We base women on what they do, right? So if a woman has great character and all of that, it's like trust. We're waiting to verify all that, right? So whatever they might, maybe they're telling the truth, maybe not. But in most cases, I'm going to go in a little hard, right? So there's certain questions that I might ask a woman. I might start off with saying, all right, if you want to be real, you might want to ask me how much money I make, right? Like, what's my income? You want to try to figure out where I am. If I make $15,000 a year, you might not really want to be thinking about getting into a long-term relationship with me, right? I mean, let's be honest. So for a man, I'm not interested in how much money you make because I have my own, but I might want to know how many men have you slept with in your life? What's your body count? Right? Now, some men don't care, but most men do. Most men want to know, right?
So what about the woman question? Well, how many women have you been with? I mean, not you,
Yeah.
but the man. Like,
men. Well, and again, men and women were not equal. Men are created to basically fill the earth with our seed, right? Men, if you look at history, a lot of us are related to men like Genghis Khan, King Solomon, right? If you look at history, it's only been this past 100 years where everything has changed. And now these weak men, what we call simps, are out there populating the earth with weak children, right? But strong, extremely strong. I don't like to use the word alpha male because a lot of men are alpha in business, but they're beta with women. But the strong, powerful men, we were not. I personally don't believe they were never created to be monogamous in the first place. This whole idea of monogamy, again, that's like over the past 100 years.
Mm-hmm. So what does the term exclusivity mean in the manosphere? Or shall we say, when I say manosphere, are we talking about this new age of dating in 2022, or is this just a select group of people? Because it seems like this ideology has pretty much saturated the dating market for people who are trying to date nowadays.
Well, that is music to my ears. I'm glad, because that's telling me that men are no longer out there getting burned. Like we're not losing. Men are not out there losing everything, half of what they have. They're not. They have smartened up. Like there's no. First of all, like I don't understand why somebody would want to get married if they don't want to have kids. It just doesn't make any sense to me. There's the tax benefit thing. We've demystified that. Men don't make any more money by marriage. We lose money. It costs more. It's more expensive for a man to get married than just to stay single. So I lost my train of thought, but I was for like my definition of a relationship is this: it is the effort exerted by a man to prevent a woman from having sex with other men.
Okay.
So when you say relationship, your definition of relationship is a lot different than mine, right? So, it's very important for men and women to get on the page and say, okay, like what is my definition of relationship is the effort that I as a man have to exert to prevent that woman from choosing to have sex with another man. Okay. And in this modern world, honestly, no amount of effort that I would put through guarantees me that she's not going to cheat on me at some point in time in the future. And the proof is in the pudding. I'm 45 and I'm single, right? I have a woman, but I consider myself single.
So this all boils down to exclusivity being a risk.
I just don't think a woman should expect exclusivity from a top guy.
Okay. So I know you mentioned Kevin Samuels, and I'm familiar with his mantra, the high value man. So we can talk about that, which was a little bit later, but we're getting to that.
Yeah.
What is a high value man according to the manosphere?
So I think the Kevin's that high earnings, networked, known within his sphere. High earning means that he has been earning a high level for multiple years, 5 or more years. He's been at that level, right? That's now that's his income. Now when it comes to his character, right? A man who is respectful and basically is respected, right? He's not a man that makes enough money and is a womanizer. He's not a man who makes a lot of money from some corrupt way. Like, he's operating a legitimate legal business, and he's conducting himself in a way that people look up to him, right? He is a pillar of his community. He is a man that does things that helps other people, right? He's, I don't want to use the word charitable. He should be charitable. He should be giving, 5 or 10% of his money to some charity, but he's a man that is actively helping other people succeed in life.
Mhm.
Right. And, yes, he's respectful, and he treats women with respect, and he treats women well.
So social standing.
It just doesn't mean that he only has one woman. That's where the high value man definition from Kevin Samuels, and I would agree, does not include being what we would call, a blue pilled simp mangina worshiping at the altar of a woman, right? He doesn't see himself below or equal to a woman. He knows that he is the man, right? He is, no matter where he goes, he's the man. When he walks into a place, he's going to be taught, he's known. When I go out and I go to a restaurant, I'm talking to everybody, right? That's just who I am. That's natural to me.
So a high value man is obviously, by this definition, social standing, leadership skills, and success, it sounds like, in this manosphere.
The high value man is, he's the total package. Yeah, he is succeeding in life in all aspects and levels.
So a man doesn't have value in this concept if he's not affluent or well recognized in his community. What if he's a quiet person who just wants to, be kind and be considerate to whether it's his partner or his family or whomever? They're not considered high value man in this.
He's not concept? Fitting it. Like he may not check all the boxes in Kevin Samuels' definition, right? And that's what I'm saying. I don't disagree with Kevin Samuels' definition, but I think a high value man could be a journeyman plumber who's now making 125 grand a year, has no debt, paid off, owns a home, may have paid it off, or has a very small mortgage, right? It's like he's only spending 15% of his of his gross monthly income on his housing expenses. He's building a retirement, right? He's that to me is a high value man. I don't think a high value man has to earn, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year or more. I think but no, if a man's like only making 40, 50 grand a year, that doesn't qualify as high value, because that is not a man who has power and influence and can change lives.
So again, it's about power, and I want to make sure I take this
masculinity,
take the platform off of Kevin Samuels, because I wouldn't even date him.
Masculinity is and power. To me, masculinity and power are one and the same. Powerful men, masculine men, sovereign men who are not led by women and are not led by other men. We might look up to other men. We network and talk to other men. We have role models, right? We don't have to be the CEO, maybe, but we have a higher position in our company. So, we may be working to enrich another man. You don't have to be a CEO. Okay. So, but yes, we are a powerful man, right? The type of man that can provide a woman with protection and provision.
So is this ideology about removing the issue of protection and certain providing for women? Is this
If,
manosphere about removing that layer, removing that expectation from the dating scene?
so many men have just decided to check out, right? Many men have just checked out completely. Yeah, they are no longer interested in protecting women whatsoever. That is, they have said, no, thank you. I'm good. I'm out.
Okay, and why is that?
Well, because the woman, number one, she has slept around too much. She is not. She's led a life of promiscuity. She's been tossed around by many men. She has psychological damage from that. She may or may not be on medications, but she's a wild card. She's unpredictable, right? So, I do, really, I'm at the point now where I don't care what the woman's body count is, because I'm not interested in any type of commitment or long-term relationship. But, I used to care. Now I no longer care, right? It's because I'm not trying to turn a hoe into a housewife. Let's just be honest, right? I'm just not. So what's your credit score, right? A lot of women have slept with more men, but their body count's higher than their credit score. Like, hey, if your credit score is 750, that's great. 700, that's great. But if it's in the 500s, that's not so good. So what's your income to debt ratio? How much debt are you carrying? Are you in the red or are you in the black? Most women are in the red. That's
so
a lot.
When do men in this manosphere have this conversation with a woman? Is this a first conversation in this dating or dating situation?
Most men, so a lot of the men in the manosphere have checked out of dating completely. So, now we're talking about men who are still out there trying to get with a woman. And no, they're not. Like most men have not been trained properly to have good judgment. They're not exercising good judgment. They just want to get laid. That's it. They're so simple and so basic. And they're making mistakes. A lot of men marry women who have 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000 in student debt. And in the manosphere, we study cases of married women who are out there online trying to find out how to make their husband pay off their student debt. That's just one example of what we now know is going on. We're sharing this with each other and we're saying, hey, if you are a man and if you marry a woman with student debt, you are a fool. That is, I would not, I have a son and you better believe that he is not going to marry a woman with debt. It will not happen over my dead body. He might lose his trust fund if he does something so foolish.
So all women are basically mostly considered a used commodity in some sense. How used she is something to be determined and not worth the pursuit of getting to know this person. According to
because her ability to stay loyal and faithful for the long term is slim to none, and Slim just died.
Where does a sense of doom and gloom come from, in the sense that there's this idea that every woman is the same and that everyone was going to cheat, or every relationship's going to end in divorce and everything's going to cost at some point?
Well, when you remove the fairy tale and the fantasy and what we call the hope strategy, when men choose to be masculine and not feminine and make decisions based on reason and logic and not based on feelings and emotions, right? When we calculate risk, we know that a woman who has slept around, who has a history of sleeping around, and in most cases, if she was in a relationship, probably not faithful during that time period, has had one night stands, may have had threesomes, foursomes, or worse, right? Maybe at the college dorm, had a night with the entire football team, right? May have had experiences with other women, right? These are all things that I'm going to best believe train my son to avoid these types of women who have had those experiences, because they are not a good match for him. I do not want my son to procreate with a woman who has slept with half of the football team in college or after.
So I think a lot of men would probably feel that way, but we're talking more so putting every woman in that category to say that every woman has the same experience or potential to have the same outcome as the experiences that you're trying to avoid recreating with someone else?
In 2022, if she's over the age of 22, she has.
How do you know this?
Because I don't know anyone who hasn't.
So you're judging. So women in this new dating age is being judged by statistics.
The younger generation is way more corrupt and promiscuous than, I'm a Generation X, and then you have millennials, and now you have Generation Z, right? So by the time you get to Generation Xers, we've been around, we've been around for 25 to 30 years, right? So there isn't a woman walking the face of the earth who has been able to have sex for 25 to 30 years who hasn't had sex with a lot of dudes.
I can promise you that there are some. I think it's a shame. I think this reminds me of
really
when a woman is pretty much jaded by men and she changes. Now it seems like this new concept of dating has just really just been filled with so much, I don't want to say bitterness, but to judge everybody. I think it's, if a woman says all men are pigs, and you're saying that all men are looking for sex, to me it's a little different.
The opposite of not being judged of judging is being foolish. It's not non-judgmental. That's the new age vernacular. That's where, people are going to church and they're preaching prosperity gospel, and they're not preaching sin, hellfire, damnation. They're preaching love,
right?
And they're leaving out judgment. And that's how we got here. That's how the ship went off course in the first place. They took God out of schools. They separated the church and state, right? They stripped all the masculinity from a man. A man, no longer can basically be the authority in a relationship with a woman. He can't. If he raises his voice, he could end up in jail.
So going back to the concept of this manosphere, is this about reclaiming that sense of what you guys are calling masculinity?
Yes, we are basically reclaiming our manhood, and we're, most of what is what we're dealing with in our culture globally is a result of the feminist movement, right? Feminism started off with, what's the word? Starts with an S. Suffrage, women's suffrage, the right to vote. We're 100% okay with that. We're not 100% okay with phase 2 feminism, which was birth control, 13, 14 different varieties, which basically allow a woman to have sex without getting pregnant. That creates a problem that leads to promiscuity. It also leads to STDs. It also leads to unplanned pregnancies, which also lead to abortion. And all of those things are terrible, terrible, terrible things. They're horrible. They're horrible to and for women to have to go through post-traumatic stress disorder from sleeping with bad boys and allowing bad boys to get them pregnant and then to leave them high and dry.
So when you look at unfairness and the women exposing themselves to multiple partnerism, if we can use that word for the sake of the show, then so is this mindset that a man can just meet a woman and feel entitled to just sleep with her and just discard her because she isn't meeting some sort of standard that he isn't really looking to have met in the first place.
Again, most men don't really qualify as men. They're just males. They're not men, right? So an honest man with integrity is going to be honest with a woman up front and tell her what he's interested in and what he's not interested in. And most men are not doing that.
So you mentioned
that is a huge problem. A lot of today's men were raised by a single mother, or maybe it was a single father, but most of the time the women get the children. So these men are not raised masculine. They're not brought up by masculine men. They are very effeminate, weak. They are basically chicks with icks. You know what I'm saying? That's it. That's unfortunately for women out there. I have empathy for the fact that, you are fishing in the rotten pond. It is a dumpster fire for everyone. Everyone is stuck in this rotten, what I call thought culture.
Right.
It is everything you see on the multimedia, every music video, and it doesn't even matter what genre all the genres are out there constantly sexualizing. It's sex, sex, sex in your face 24/7, you know. And now it's most of the commercials are all geared towards promoting, you know, women taking over, young girls, girl power, and all that movement. That has had a terrible psychological effect on young men.
So are you familiar with the term toxic masculinity?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people would consider me toxic, right? However, toxic means poisonous. It means doing harm to someone, right? But I don't harm women at all, right? I help men by being brutally honest about what I've learned about female nature and giving them warnings, right? Just as I would give warnings for men to avoid evil and wickedness and Satanism. And, you know, promiscuous women have what we call the Jezebel spirit. That is the spirit of the whore of Babylon, Semiramis, right? That is the same spirit.
But every woman doesn't have that spirit. So it sounds like every woman's almost
Not
being,
all women, you're right.
convicted. Let me finish. Sounds like every woman is being charged with the same crime here, in the sense that the playing field is filled with the expectation that every woman's going to sleep with somebody's friend or cheat or whatever that situation is, and it's pretty much unfair. Or the stacks are against women in dating because they're automatically going to be treated as if they started off this race, you know, with some sort of affliction.
That's a great point. And, you know, what I would tell men is, look, don't assume that she's pure and don't treat her like a whore, right? You gotta, as a man, be able to look at a woman and know anything it's possible. You don't know yet. You don't go in there assuming anything. If you assume you make an ass out of you and me. Men need to wise up and don't go in there blindly thinking that if she's giving you attention, it's like I said, don't think you're so wonderful and you're, you know, you're the man. After she has a history. Don't think that just because now she's interested in you, it's because you're so much better than every woman who has been with a rock star man. You know, we use the term alpha widow. They have had an amazing experience with a man, and that is like in the card catalog and library of her mind. You know, when she goes to bed at night, odds are she may be sleeping with somebody from her past, not necessarily with the man she's with. Let's just face it. Now, you know, so
no comment.
You know, I would never encourage a man to treat a woman in a negative or derogatory or never. There's no reason for a man to treat a woman crappy. You should treat a woman with respect at all times. Old women, young women, you know, I have two daughters that are 14 and 12, right? So every woman out there is someone's daughter, someone's mother, someone's sister, you know, but we're saying, men, you got to stop believing in this fabricated fairy tale that women are queens and that they're Cinderellas and that they're Belles and that they're Mulans and that they're, you know, they're not. They have been passed around like a peace pipe in an Indian reservation. They are damaged goods. They might have good intentions and that's cool. But realistically, their past tells a different story. And most women hide that past.
So I do know plenty of women that hide many things. And those are the ones that people think are the most virtuous. But men, on the flip side of that, you guys have past just as much as women do. And you know, this conversation coming from a female would have been considered bitter and damaged goods. But it seems almost like an unfairness that the men can adopt this ideology and move forward in dating and call it
right. Because men generally, especially masculine men, we're not emotional creatures. We don't function on feelings and emotion. We don't. We you know, men are also the ones that give love. Women receive a man's love. Okay.
What do you call love? Because this ideology sounds more like the opposite of love. It sounds more like, you know, most women would probably call it misogyny, or we talked about toxic masculinity. It sounds pretty much like a harmful situation for people in this dating scene nowadays.
Yeah, and again, I'm not going to disagree with you there, because a lot of men out there are toxic, they are bitter, they are hurt, and they are resentful, and they have been damaged. Okay, not not a whole lot of men have reached the level of overcoming that. Okay, I like to say we are in triage, right? I refer to it as, come on in, gentlemen. And we don't recruit. We're not out there trying to recruit and convince men. That is not part of our ideology. We are not recruiters. We wait for men to arrive from the battlefield. When they come in from that relationship battlefield, whether it was a failed marriage or a series of failed relationships, we're just, come on in, gentlemen, the door's open, and we bring them in and we treat them. We put the bandages on their wounds. We feed them red pills. We say, look, man, you need to take a red pill a day, right? You take your daily dose of red pills, right? This is the reality. Now you have learned what reality is. Everything that you've been taught from society was a lie. It wasn't true. It didn't turn out the way that it was supposed to. It's because it was a lie.
So for years, if a woman says, I've been married, I've done this, my husband cheated, or whatever situation happened, she would have been considered definitely damaged, bitter, and a whole bunch of don't even touch her. But now it sounds like it's okay for the men to say, okay, I'm waiting for you to come to the side of the rink because I know what this field is out here. Now you arrive. Now let's do something different now that you've been so-called enlightened or experienced enough to see whatever the real picture is. How is it fair for the men to have all these expectations and these role expectations, what I would call it, but it's wrong or detrimental for a woman if she does?
Because we're different, because we're men. That's it. God said that women would be cursed in childbirth, and the number 2 curse was that a woman will have desire
right
over her husband. So women have a low level of aggression and disgust and distaste for extremely successful men, and they basically despise men at the bottom generally, right? They have a low level of contempt, right? Women will always have contempt for men, because men will always, and I'm talking about real men will always be more powerful and masculine and dominant. A man who is not dominant is not. Women don't want that weak, we call them betas. Women don't want to be with that beta male. They don't. They might marry him for his money, but that woman will be out. She will be out having sex with a powerful. She's not going to be satisfied with a weak beta male that worships at the throne of her queendom.
Let me make a point here. I wanted to get to that point. I might as well touch it while I'm here, because that's really not true. I like beta men. And I would like to somebody to not worship at my feet, because you have to worship the Lord first. But that whole paradigm of princess, I think people could probably see that that's me. But to your point of women thinking about other people, I remember having this conversation at least over a decade ago, when someone says, everybody's thinking about someone, it's your job to make me forget about them. When you apply that to a relationship, if people walk into a relationship realizing that people do have experiences, but not feeling defeated upon entry, then maybe, I'm not saying you have to undo what someone's done or meet somebody else's expectations, because like they could have done something that the other person is not capable of doing. But I think if you walk in it looking at it as, somebody's already experienced this, so therefore I'm just going to treat this person horribly, then what good can potentially come out of that dating situation? It's nothing but a dumpster fire, like you mentioned.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So I just want to go back to saying, hey, look, I don't know it all, right? I'm not the end all be all. I'm just a regular old guy. So I don't have the answers to that. But what my philosophy is that I'm not willing to take on that seagull with a broken wing. I'm not looking to save anyone, right? It's as far as I'm concerned, it's too late. That ship has already sailed. We passed that exit on the Jersey Turnpike 10 miles 10 years ago, right? For me, like I said, I've been married, had 3 kids. I'm not looking to mend a broken wing, right? I'm not interested in that. I'm not looking at investing the time, the psychological power that it would require of me. Okay. It doesn't mean that I'm a heartless curmudgeon. I'm quite the opposite. I'm very I'm a people person. I'm very jovial. You know, I love on a lot of people, but I don't fall in love with anyone, because when you fall in love, it ends up causing you to make compromises, which will backfire. So I'm not interested in, I don't believe in the Disney fairy tale love at this stage and age of my life. You know, now maybe when I'm 75 and I'm 5 or 10 years from my deathbed, maybe at that point I'll be like, oh, I only got 5 or 10 years. You know, now's the time for me to go fall in love. That's possible. But for right now, it would be an unwise decision to risk, you know, to take all of the steps that it would require of me, the time, the energy, the attention, the money, the meat. I'm not interested to risk my meat for, you know, and listen, I'm sorry to cut you off, but one more thing. I'm not looking for the older experienced woman who's been through all that. And I don't want the younger one either. I'm not interested in the virgin either, because I'm not looking at investing the time, the energy, and the effort, and doing everything I have to keep that virgin from cheating on me and being faithful. It's too far.
So let me interject 1 second, because, you know, the purpose of the segment is to understand how men are thinking. I don't want people to make it more subjective to you and say, okay, this is Wesley. When we talk about dating in 2022, these beliefs seem to be shared beliefs or shared philosophy amongst, you know, the men who are in the dating scene. And would you say that this represents a lot of men?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the men who are aware of it, you know, they may be what we call red pilled, or they just maybe they're listening to some of these masculine men, these dating coaches, and these men are teaching them game. And I'm not meaning just to go out there and trick women into bed. I mean, you know, they're being taught how to be masculine men, but they're not like, we don't want to take on everything that a woman needs, right? A man needs sex. A woman needs resources, time, energy, discussions. A woman requires a lot more: shopping excursions, vacations, you know, bicycle rides, ice cream trips, candlelight dinners, you know, they require a whole lot more, whereas most men require sex.
So let's go back to a point that you made, that you know, about women needing to be less naive. Would you say that women, based upon where this dating scene has arrived, or if you want to call it red pill woke?
Yeah.
1 second. Is it that she needs to walk in a situation under the realization that this is what it really is, and decide if she wants to be a part of this new dating culture?
I think that's a great point. I think women's needs, wants, desires, and expectations are pretty high. The bar is pretty high, right? Especially when a woman's a little bit older, maybe has her own income, still attractive. You know, that type of woman has high expectations for a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that man, in my opinion, may not exist, or is out of her reach.
Okay. We'll get into the out of the reach portion.
You know, it's like you know, throughout most men's lives, most men know that we're not going to get the prom queen. We're not going to get Miss America. We're not going to get 8s, 9s, and 10s, right? But a lot of women still haven't accepted the fact that they're not going to get the type of man that they want. It's too late, right? Because that man can go right over to the junior college or the college, or we can literally order one online. We can get any woman of any age, race, religion, creed, just like that. It's that easy. In fact, we can have 2 or 3 or 4, however many we want. We might only want one, but for a time, for a season, right? Mm-hmm. There's no way that I'm bringing a woman like, and when I say I mean, there's no way a lot of men who have succeeded in life and who have options are willing to surrender those options. We're not willing to surrender peace, quiet, and freedom. We've worked very hard. We've already been through hell. So, you know, women might say, you're hurt, you're gay, what's wrong with you? You have no game, all that stuff, you know, and, you know, hey, say what you want to say. That's fine. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Your opinion of me doesn't define who I am. It's cool. You're entitled to say that. Have I been hurt? Sure. Who hasn't? But I've learned from those mistakes, and I'm not going to make those mistakes ever again. It's off the table. So, just to focus exactly on what you said, like a laser beam, it's just, hey, ladies, you get to choose from thousands of men, literally. If the next time you go on your dating app, right, choose a man without looking at the screen. Close your eyes, stop picking a man who's handsome. Stop reading the profile and looking for a man that in his description talks about his career or has pictures of his car or pictures of him on vacation or standing next to other attractive men. Stop judging men based on all this superficial shit, right? Because you're ignoring literally 90% of the other guys on that dating app that never get a chance. And, in my opinion, that's probably where the gold is.
I can promise you this.
Places. You're shooting up here.
Let me finish.
But you're missing the target.
Let me speak. I can promise you that some of those men that are less assuming or less desirable are worse than some of the other men who have more of a right to pick and choose. I've fallen for that bait of thinking, no, he's different. He's not going to be like this. And it's for a woman, I think it's really probably imperative that someone doesn't assume that just because he doesn't look this way or just because he isn't making that money, that he is going to be different. Sometimes they are worse because sometimes they can be making up for what they didn't do or just mad because they know you probably, it's like it's just a making up for lost time or whatever. I don't know what the reason is, or there's just less assuming, but I can honestly say that anytime I've done that, they have been worse. So you might as well get what you want. If you're going to go through some trouble, you might as well have happy troubles and go through it with someone you think is worth it. That's my opinion.
I agree with that.
Men, so I just enter that and we're back.
100% agree with that. Hurt people. That's the dumpster fire that we're in. And I still just go back to say that high level, top tier guy who's got his life together, who will treat you very, very well. Realistically, he's not going to settle for one. He's not. That's it. It's a lot of men that I know that we have multiple women and they know it and they are willing to share. And if they're not willing to share, we're okay with that, but we will be honest and say, hey, look, this is what I'm willing to offer. And being exclusive to you it's not part of the package. It's not part of the deal.